Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my regular YouTube live stream, Ask James, where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. It's currently just gone 11 AM on Friday, April the 15th. Happy Easter to everybody. And we've just got big breaking news in the last half hour or so, which I must admit has taken me aback. The news that Sean Dyche has been sacked as manager of Burnley Football Club, was due to do a press conference giving team news updates ahead of the trip to West Ham on Sunday at just after 1 PM today. Something has happened behind the scenes for them to make the decision on a Friday, I believe. I no doubt there will be some questions on Dyche as we get into the chat. So let's get on with it. As usual, questions will be answered in order of submission. Adam English is first. Here we go. Sean Dyche has been sacked. What? Discuss. I think, like everybody, stunned, genuinely, absolutely staggered at that decision. Obviously, spoke to Jack at Turfy Topper on Clash of the Correspondents, which we released for you yesterday. Recorded that on Wednesday night, and I did mention it in passing. Any question marks on the manager, and I think we were in agreement. Absolutely no doubt. The best way for Burnley Football Club to go forward is to try and stay with Sean Dyche, and would be desperately worried for their future without him. And I think Burnley fans will be very worried right now. The owners, ALK, who took over the club some time ago, we've had concerns about them. Me and Sudge have been keeping our eye on them because essentially they are an investment company and see Burnley as such. And this has been the suspicion. And obviously, should they get relegated, which they're odds on to do so at the moment, then what's the investment? You've bought a Premier League club and you're going to have a Championship club. What does that mean? Does it mean they try and go for glory and try and get Burnley back up? Or do they fire sale and get rid of what they've got? I'm very worried for the future of that football club because I think it might not end at the Championship. They're a small club. They've done incredible to be in the Premier League as long as they have done. And Sean Dyche is a major, major part of that. And I cannot see how anybody comes in with, what have they got left? 8 games to go. And knows that football club and can be better at trying to get Burnley out of trouble than the man who's done incredible things. I mean, he got Burnley Football Club into Europe. And I realise that they've won, 4 games this season or so. And it's not been good. Many people will criticise the style of football. I actually think they've been trying to expand on that philosophy over the last couple of years, and I think that's possibly been to the detriment to some of the results. I speak very much about between the defensive 4 and the midfield 4. They can really lose battles in that area if you can bypass Burnley's midfield 4. I think it's a mistake. Like, good luck to them. Like, I hope it works out, and I hope for the Burnley fans, and I know a few, Jack and Claret FPL and a few others. I really hope that for them that the football club stays up, because I'm very worried for them if they don't. Sam Allardyce is going to be the obvious name linked, isn't it? Who do you go and get with 8 games to go that suddenly turns this around? I cannot agree with that decision at all. It's a shocker. But the fixtures are good. Who knows? They might get a manager bounce and they might get themselves out of it. But I imagine the players there will be stunned as well. It's not had a large upheaval of overturn of players over the years. I imagine a lot of them will be really disappointed, and that might have a very detrimental impact on them as well. If you were considering Burnley players for your free hit, I'd take them straight out, to tell you the truth. It's a shocker. It's a shocker. The news is very fresh. We'll see how it unfolds over the next 24 hours or so. I've not heard of the person who sounds like he's going to be taking charge of the game on Sunday. But apparently Ben Mee's going to be a part of the team selection. He's obviously injured at the moment. He's a captain. He's instrumental for them, and he's been a massive miss for them. It's no coincidence that his injury has led to an uprise in the amount of goals they've been conceding. They need him back quickly. I presume he's still going to be unavailable. Yeah, I'm worried for them. I don't think anybody at this moment thinks, oh, Burnley have sacked Sean Dyche, they've got a better chance of staying up. That's not what we think, is it? I wish them well. Dave Lister says, good morning, Dave. TJ Powell says, we'll miss the deadline stream tomorrow, so apologies for the FPL question. That's all right, mate. Doing Doherty to share, but wondering about a Veghorst to Wood for -4, wildcarding in 35, bench boost 36, free hit 37, if all goes to plan. I'm not going to move Veghorst to Wood for -4, despite everything I'm saying. Who knows? Who knows what it means now? You know, if it is Big Sam and he comes in and he's in for, say, the Thursday game against Southampton, that I use him as a real target, I think he probably almost definitely stays in the team now, I would think. So I'm not going to make that sideways move. In terms of Doherty to share, that's still my most likely transfer, but I'll expand on that a little bit, because what I've been discussing on the podcast we just released for patrons this morning is the idea that if Crystal Palace win on Sunday against Chelsea, it's potentially going to mean a very dramatic shift in strategy for myself. So my plan is the same as TJ's, free hit in 37, but if you remove the doubles for Villa and Palace in 37, I'm not sure what I'm free hitting to. Now, were I to free hit in 37, it's definitely treble Villa for me, and there's a possibility it might even be treble Palace. So it may even be that I switch that up and free hit in 35. Now, if that's the case, I'm going to be wildcarding Sunday night. Wildcard 34 to set up the bench boost 36, free hit in the middle, and it'll mean the wildcard carries a lot of Chelsea, Leicester and Everton, I think, as they all have doubles 36, 37. It's dangerous. I hope Palace win, because I always want the underdog to win, but from an FPL perspective, it would certainly be beneficial to us free hitting in 37 if Chelsea win. Of course, it does mean that Chelsea would obviously have a double themselves in 36. We now know the provisional date. As we'd suggested, if the Manchester United game was going to get brought forward, it was almost definitely going to be the Thursday in 34. That's what's happened. Obviously, if Palace beat Chelsea, Villa Palace moves into 35 instead. So, yeah, honestly, it could be if Palace win on Sunday, that could completely alter my strategy. One of the things I said weeks ago was Villa Burnley going into 37 was the sort of fixture that would make me free hit in 37 with that Palace double. But move it back out, and I'm not sure that's going to be for me, TJ. So I think Doherty to share is probably the move I'm most likely to make. But in my case, I've got just about enough money in the bank to go Doherty to Reece James. Now, it feels a little bit odd, but if I do think Chelsea are going to win, then obviously I'm going to want Reece James next week, and it probably means I remove probably Share to make that happen. With a great fixture in 34 away to Norwich. It could be that I downgrade someone like Robertson to get Reece James in, and then that allows me to move Ryan Fraser up to Mason Mount. Although the news on Ryan Fraser this morning seems to suggest that he's not definitely out for Newcastle, so I'm not sure I want to bin that yet. So I'm going to wait for all the team news before I confirm what I do. I think that Share move is the most likely for me, because if I do go for Reece James, not that it's a bad move, obviously it's not, but it's thinking with the Chelsea double in mind and that I'd possibly want to captain him in 34, then I'd be reverting to the original plan, which might become a little bit more complicated. So if I decided not to wildcard and Chelsea were to lose to Crystal Palace, the idea originally was to move Bruno in 34, Bruno Fernandes obviously, to either Heung-min Son, Mo Salah or Diogo Jota, and just make that decision this time next week. So yeah, it really could hinge for me in terms of the Chelsea Palace game, in terms of my strategy going forward. I do think Share is the most likely move still for me, because it's a great double, and then it's a good single. And obviously, if I do end up wildcarding, then I'd obviously remove Share. Then we'll look elsewhere. So I think the advice there, TJ, is consider the alternative strategy. Begin to think about it, because we're going to need to. Tom Hall said, just wanted your thoughts on now abandoning Leicester and going Kulusevski as a safe free transfer. Again, difficult to answer without knowing the strategy, but what I would say on Kulusevski is incredible value. He's playing like an £8-9 million midfielder. He's not going to be the price he is next season. I may even end up benching him this week, possibly, personally. But I have no problem. If you want to buy Kulusevski rather than Leicester, I have no problem with that. What I'd say is I think James Maddison definitely plays away to Everton, I would think. Unless, of course, he starts against Newcastle, then you're probably looking at a cameo maybe against Everton. their fixture against Villa is on the Saturday as well. So you are looking at 3-day turnarounds for Leicester. So however you go about it, I mean, the only person I'd be confident in Leicester saying they play twice is Schmeichel, which is why I'd go with him if I was on free hit. I mean, if I was free hitting, I'd still go Maddison. Because he could play twice. It could be that he plays twice and then perhaps doesn't start against Villa. Could be that he starts all of them. His form's taken a real upturn over the last month or so. I think he's absolutely key for them. Harvey Barnes was withdrawn at half-time, and you can have the score of thought and say, well, he now plays twice. Well, actually, form is not there at the moment, and that's the reason he was taken off at half-time. So, I think if it was me buying new, I would gamble the Leicester players still. I think I'd go Maddison. Obviously, if that's not affordable, Kulusevski's great. He's also easy for me to say when I've already got Kulusevski sitting in there. But as I said, it's possibly going to be a choice for me in terms of benching him or Rudiger. And I think that's quite close. Me and Suj debated that this morning on the Patreon pod. I'd probably start Rudiger. He'd probably start Kulusevski. I think it's a tough one. Tom Halser says, and by the way, we are massive. Tom, congratulations on the victory in Lyon last night. It's a great result for West Ham, and wish you well in the rest of the tournament. Alex NG says, which one worth a transfer? Weghorst to Wood, Pope to Schmeichel, Havertz to Maddison. Wouldn't want to be bidding Havertz now. The possibility of that 34 double is there, so I think Havertz sticks, because you would every chance you'll want to reverse that straight away. It depends on your strategy, right? So I think if you're wildcarding in 34, the best of those transfers is probably Weghorst Wood. Having said that, you can make a case actually it's Havertz to Maddison if you're wildcarding in 34. If you're running through, I'd definitely keep Havertz at the moment. If you're without chips, I think Pope to Schmeichel would be the move. Ryan says, do you believe that Manchester United assets are worth investing for non-free hitters with the potential back-to-back doubles in mind, or do you think the fixtures are too tough and they can be avoided? So, no, I think you can invest. I think you're limited. I think the choices are straightforward. De Gea obviously is an option in goal. I think Telles, with Luke Shaw likely to be out for the season, is the way you'd go defensively. Bruno is obviously an option. I think he's the best captaincy option this week myself, and that's who I'll be captaining. Jadon Sancho, depending on budget restrictions, is obviously an option, I think. Alanga, even, is a cheap budget possibility. And obviously you can go Ronaldo. Does Ronaldo start all 4 of those games? Well, I'm not convinced personally he even starts at Liverpool on Tuesday, but then that's the game you're probably least interested in anyway. So, yes, I think you can go for them. The concern would be, obviously, if you're at chips and you go heavy on them and Chelsea don't beat Palace, you're going to want to get rid of them quickly, I think. That said, if they do double-double, the 35 fixture is Brentford, 36 is Brighton away, then they blank. So there's a case, even if perhaps if you're free hitting 37, you can go United and carry it through. The problem is, they're goddamn awful at the moment, aren't they? That's the real concern. But I think, yeah, look, the prospect of potential double-double, irrespective of the fixtures, for big hitting players particularly, like Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo, yes, you can go and buy them. I personally would not consider going Harry Kane to Ronaldo. I would consider potentially going Salah to Fernandes. I don't think I would go Son to Fernandes at the moment. That said, I think Liverpool could destroy Manchester United on Tuesday night. So very, very difficult. I made the choice, obviously, to go Salah to Fernandes last week, which ironically I think was an easier move then, with Salah going to City and Fernandes going to Everton than actually it looks now. Like, if anyone wants to captain Salah this week or Son, I don't have a major issue with that. The advice generally would be, if you can find a good doubler, go with that. Because United could get beat 4-1 at Liverpool and Fernandes might score on Tuesday, right? That does you the job if he gets you good returns against Norwich as well. So that's why I prefer him as the option. Yes, you can look at United assets. Ray Qureshi says, hey James, I can get in Sonny with 2 free transfers, have Kane and Salah. Should I bring him in or get in a doubler like Maddison? Personally, I think I would find the allure of the double too difficult to avoid personally, Ray. So I would probably go Maddison, but again, it's very dependent on your strategy. So despite Leicester's extra fixtures, I think I would want Sonny as a priority without chips. Obviously, if you're wildcarding 34, it's 1 week, I'd go Maddison. It's worth saying, I think, and don't quote me on this, but from memory, I don't think Sonny scored against Brighton in the past. Carlos Bambos says, would you sell Kulusevski for Fernandes for -4 to captain him? No, probably not. I think for free, yeah. I'm not sure about hits for the United players because, like I said, you're instantly going to want to reverse that. Now, you might be able to chain that, Carlos, where, for example, perhaps you don't have Son. You go Kulusevski to Fernandes now, Fernandes to perhaps to Son next week if United's double doesn't happen, or obviously you can hold if it does happen. -4. I mean, Kulusevski in his own right could go off, couldn't he? Kulusevski could outscore Fernandes this week. That's the reality. So, no. For free, yes. For -4, not convinced. Philip Sutzer says, hi James, thanks for the great content. What do you think is the reason for Son to be getting all the goals recently while Kane is more of a provider? Formation of Spurs or the opposition a factor? A little bit of both. Possibly more a factor of the formation of the opposition. Baker did. I met Baker at who did we play? Was it when we played Leeds earlier in the season? Spurs fan from the Above Average FPL podcast. Really clever football mind. Knows his Spurs onions really well. Also, and he's picked up on this trend that Kane does particularly well against teams that play 4-2-3-1, particularly 2 in midfield, and Son doing well when Tottenham are outnumbered in the midfield area, and that's probably because Kane's dropping in and then Son is picking up the space a little bit more. The difficulty for this weekend is, I don't know what Brighton are going to do. Not a clue. If they go with the exact same team that beat Arsenal, then I would think that probably favours Sonny, but there's no guarantee that they will, because Potter likes to tactically muck about with it, doesn't he? Webster's fit again, so they might change that and go with Webster back in and play more of a flatter form. Perhaps, Bissouma and Mwepu, for example, which would be a real solid midfield, but then Kane will drop into those areas. Difficult to say. Difficult to say. I think there's something in that idea that Baker's got. I think that's quite clever. It's a really good spot. But reality is that Son's outscored Kane the last few. Over the next few, Kane could batter Son in the returns. They're just two absolutely brilliant assets, both right at the top of the game at the moment. I would not consider for a moment moving one to the other. I've got Harry. I don't have Sonny. It's not going to work for me at the moment, so I'll stick with Harry. And I think at any time any of them could outscore the other. Historically, as I said, Kane does have a good record against Brighton, whereas Son doesn't. But then that doesn't mean that's going to have an impact on this weekend. Particularly, as I said, no real knowledge of what Brighton are going to do. And I actually think it makes it a very dangerous game for Tottenham this weekend. More the Explorer says, hi James, going Mount, Rudiger, Tierney to Son, share, Burn from -4 with nothing in the bank. Plan is to bench boost now and wildcard 35. Owning Dalot, Pickford, Foster raises doubts for bench boost. Any advice? Okay, let's have a look at them. So Pickford at home to Leicester. It's not great. Foster home to Brentford. It's not great. Dalot involvement is certainly questionable, but could come back in. My instinct on that might be that Dalot might start against Norwich and Wan-Bissaka maybe against Liverpool. Would maybe be my instinct on that. That's also not going to help you. Tierney's obviously injured, needs binning. Do you want to bin Mount and Rudiger? I'm not convinced, personally. Not convinced. But obviously the Newcastle defence is fine for 34 if you're wildcarding 35. Just consider as well, I don't know from your strategy, if you're looking at free hit 37, we might all be moving from that. Those of us who are looking that way. So I'm not keen on getting rid of the Chelsea players. I'm not really keen on forcing the bench boost now. I think probably more naturally you'll end up in a good position for 36. Now to do that, that probably means not going to Newcastle. Probably means just one. Tom Campbell says, morning pal, missed podcast this week. Boo! Do we think Emerson Royal is a viable Doherty replacement? Preferable to Matty Cash for the run-in question. Thanks James. PS, come on you glorious Irons. Thanks for ruining the question, Tom. If I had to have Cash or Emerson Royal for the remainder of the season and was struggling for chips, I'd want Matty Cash, I think. Blank this week, obviously. Leicester 34 away is okay. Norwich 35, which could be the double. 36 double. 37 double, or could be just Burnley at home. 38, I think you'd be benching him away to Manchester City. I think that's better, actually. in terms of his potential. The way Villa set up stylistically owes a lot to what the two wide midfielders do. Really allows Cash and Dean, if available, which I'm sure he must be now. Although he went off again against us, didn't he? Getting really high up the pitch. I think Cash is a better option than Dean, personally. So I wouldn't be keen to go Cash, but I understand if you're buying one now, Tom, obviously would make no sense to buy Cash. You'd obviously go for Emerson Royal. I can't foresee Emerson Royal not starting games at the moment. I also personally don't think he's as bad as a lot of other people do. I think there's potential for, if a game's not working, for Tottenham to look at the idea of using Kulusevski there, has been mentioned, and then bring Lucas Moura into the front three, but I don't think would start that way in a game. The other alternative is, and it has been tried, it was tried against Morecambe in the FA Cup early in the season, Reguilon playing left wing back, Sessegnon on right wing back, but I don't think there's an intention to do that at the moment. So I would prefer Cash over Royal though, Tom. Part of that being, in all honesty, the three best Tottenham assets right now are Son, Kane, Kulusevski, and don't fear going with all three of them. Ross Johnson says it's 1985. You've got the Nags Head five-a-side team to the Vauxhall Astra Shock Absorber final. You played a 45. They have great Arelli aerial threat and a Spanish wizard in midfield. Who's your only fools five? What? I've got to pick a only fools and horses five, have I? Let's go with Marlene, Cassandra. Trigger's got to be in there, hasn't he? Rodney. We need Rodney for the aerial. And we'll have Dell doing some stupid tactics, shouldn't we? Hector Palmer says, hi James, hope you're well. For Man United cover this week and possible next, would you prefer doing Kane to Ronaldo or Salah to Fernandes? Asking myself how many minutes Salah gets versus Everton. Don't know is the answer. 3 days before a Champions League semi-final against Villarreal. Though the distance in between the United and Everton games make me think that as long as Salah comes through the weekend unscathed, he'll play those next two league games, I would think. I'm not keen on Ronaldo personally. I think if Fernandes has double-double, I think he outscores Salah. If Ronaldo has double-double, I'm not sure he outscores Kane. That's honestly how I feel. Jamie Shea says, still on cloud nine after a special night when Spurs had a European run. Did you feel it was more special than the Big Four's success because it was more rare and then meant more? Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm going to presume, Jamie, you're a West Ham fan, not Leicester. Apologies if I got that the wrong way round. But I think, yeah, I mean, listen, it's personal to you, isn't it? Like, if anybody's looking at West Ham last night and going, oh, it's only the Europa League, look at them going off. No, it's yours. You haven't been in Europe for a long time. You enjoy it, mate. You have every right to be on cloud nine. And the same applies to Leicester as well, even in spite of Leicester's title win and stuff. Like, Leicester have just got to European semi-final. That's incredible for them. So, I think maybe yes. I was certainly aware when Tottenham won their Champions League run in 2019. Certainly when we got to the semi-final, I was very consciously aware that this might never happen again, right? And I think that applies to West Ham and Leicester as well, that it might never happen again. Whereas if you support a City or a Liverpool or United, I think you know that day definitely is going to come again. There's no doubt about that. So yes, I think so, because I think you're aware when it's happening. Not that it means less for the other clubs. I mean, you asked a Chelsea fan last year in terms of even despite the COVID and only a few thousand being allowed out to Porto, like, it's incredible for them. It doesn't necessarily mean less. I just think there's probably more of a consciousness if you support a club like I do with Tottenham, that what happened a couple of years ago might never happen again, and I'm still aware of that. Or if you're following a West Ham or Leicester now, like, you have to take it in, soak it, and go for it, because it might not happen again. So probably yes, so, but a difficult one to compare, because I ask a Man City fan right now, they're absolutely desperate to win the Champions League. And I don't doubt that Liverpool fans are desperate to make it 7 times and stuff like that. So difficult to equate. Ethan says, is it silly to sell Weghorst for 4.5 million forward and invest the money in Cancelo this week? Have 2 free transfers. No, I wouldn't do that, Ethan, personally. It's difficult to foresee with the Kyle Walker injury, and we haven't got the detail on that at the time of recording, that Cancelo doesn't just move to right back and pretty much plays for City going through now. But no, I wouldn't. Who knows? Burnley might, we started this stream by saying it's unbelievable that they've sacked Sean Dyche, but who knows? They might have an upturn and he might suddenly start scoring goals. Triple Captain says, Jamie Shea, fan of a football club, thinks own football club is more important to him than other people's football clubs are to them. Well, of course, people are going to think their own club is more important to them. That's fairly obvious, isn't it? Victor Sandberg says, how would you resonate with your transfers if you had no chips left? Really do not fancy any double game week teams, and it feels really tough getting in City, Chelsea pool players when they play tomorrow. I think, though, in City, Chelsea pool players, then going through till the end, like you probably buying good assets there, so it's okay. Whereas even like to go back to some of the previous questions, buying Bruno or Ronaldo, there's every chance, if Chelsea lose on Sunday, you're going to want to get rid of it straight away. So I can understand. I mean, if you go Newcastle now and you're without chips, great. But then I guess if you're going for Share or Burn, for example, you just bench it for the rest of the season, probably. Difficult. It's very difficult to overlook what's in front of you, the double right in front of you, the potential of what it can be. But I think there's nothing wrong with going for Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool players, particularly if you're without those chips and looking to run through. What do you want more? Think of it, 6 game weeks, right? Judge it over 6 game weeks. What do you want more for the final 6 game weeks of the season? Do you want Mo Salah? Do you want Bruno Fernandes? Now, in my case, I made a decision based on 3 game weeks that I thought Bruno Fernandes could outscore Mo Salah. Now, so far, I'm 3 points down. It's not worked out. But if Bruno gets the double-double, then I fancy, that's potentially back on. But if I was without the chips, I'd know that I'd definitely been in Bruno Fernandes at some point, whether it's back to back to Salah, move on to Son, downgrade to Jota, spread the money. I'd know I'm moving that on. So I think without the chips, those with the best consistency, the 3 best teams in the league, and Tottenham, with the way we're attacking at the moment, are the teams that you'd want to cover most. So judge it over the 6 weeks. You may find that it's better to take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. A Max says, would you captain a double of, say, Saka or Chris Wood over Son or Salah? Yes. Yes, I would. I think purely because there are things in those fixtures that are interesting. For Arsenal, with no idea how Southampton are going to react. It could go either way, but there's certainly potential in that fixture. Chelsea could have extra time on Sunday and rest a few players against Arsenal on Wednesday. We don't know. And for Newcastle, they're obviously coming into a double where their 2 opponents are arguably coming off the back of their biggest game of the season, Leicester against PSV, and Palace obviously to come on Sunday against Chelsea in the Cup semi-final. So yes, I would. However, and it's not just Wood or Saka, either, it's fine. And to be honest, even I'd throw St. Maximin into that as well. But I don't have a problem if people want to go with Son, Kane, Salah this week. I think those are the 3. I think, fine. If you want to captain them, it's fine. They've got good home fixtures. If you really believe and fancy them and have no confidence in the doublers, or don't feel you can justify that sort of transfer like Salah to Fernandes or Kane to Ronaldo, then yes, I think it's still viable to go with those singlers. In the case of Salah, make sure you've got a bloody good vice captain, that's all. Hector Palmer says, also, is it sensible to jump the gun and bring in Chelsea assets this week? Even if they don't double 34, you would still want to hold them for the rest of the season? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, again, look at that. Take the case of me, Doherty, thinking of probably going to Share, but I've got the wild card in hand. If I don't have that wild card in hand and I can go to Reece James, there's no doubt in my mind I can't buy Reece James. No doubt. So, yeah, it's absolutely fine. And look, if the double doesn't happen for Chelsea in 34, it's going to happen in 37. Owen Wilson says, do you think this increase or decreases Vegel's chance of starting in the double? It's the under-23s coach that's taking charge. Who knows? Don't know anything about him and the way he would potentially want to go and play. It'd be one for the Burnley guys to answer. Any answer I gave you would be bullshit, wouldn't it? I'd just be guessing. My best guess is he's one of their most expensive signings, and he is a weapon. They'll use it. but I could have that completely wrong. Birth Media says no wildcard, bench boost and 1 free hit left. Tellez and Mount or Maddison and Share. No wildcard left, 1 free hit left. I think Maddison and Share probably, but when you're bench boosting, Share's not going to do you any good for that, is he? Mind you, neither's Tellez. So I think Maddison and Share is the way I'd go. Rush Johnson says, James, the year is 2030. Phil Foden's haircut is still shit and United are still without a trophy. City are dominating. What are Spurs up to? Spurs are managed by Sean Dyche. Jokes. I'd like to think by 2030 that Tottenham will be challenging for the title. I mean, it's almost impossible to say, isn't it? I think because of the infrastructure of the club now, with the training ground, the stadium, it's very difficult to foresee Tottenham ever having the kind of season that Everton have had this year. Really difficult. I can only see the club growing. These cycles, you know, let's say we've got now with City and Liverpool, it won't last forever. They will change managers by that point, I'm fairly sure. And it'll be someone else's cycle, be it an Arsenal, maybe Tottenham, maybe United, maybe Newcastle, of course. So I'd like to think Tottenham will be challenging. I think the club is on a really sound footing to be sustainable. It's always going to be extremely difficult for my club to win a Premier League or a Champions League. But I'd like to think 8 years' time, I'd like to think we would be one of the 4 best teams in this league. But I'm sure the rest of the big 6 feel the same. I'm sure Newcastle fans will feel their club will be involved. Who knows? Someone else might get the investment in money. A club like West Ham United are very capable of growing. So you don't look at any of these teams. The only one you could really see any kind of clue at the moment that they could fall off of a cliff suddenly is Chelsea, because of the potential change of ownership. We don't know what's happening, but if the ownership is smooth for them and there's still investment in the football team, they'll stay right up there, no doubt about it. Meninda Prihar says best replacements for Doherty, Rafinha, Ramsey. If we've gone off Leicester now, they're still in Europe. Looking to get rid of bench boost this week. You're looking to get rid of bench boost this week. Replacements for Doherty, therefore, that's Newcastle, I think. Rafinha and Ramsey, Dewsbury Hall, I think, still. He's playing every game at the moment. I think he gets probably minimum 120, 130 minutes in the double. And I think the same probably applies to Maddison. So, that's still probably the way I'd go. Make a case for James Ward-Prowse, I think, if you're looking to get rid of that bench boost this week. Good budget option, it's not a budget option. Let's say a good enabling option, short term as well. Their fixtures actually aren't bad. Brighton, Palace, Brentford follow the double. So I would say Newcastle defender, James Ward-Prowse and Dewsbury Hall. Subject to obviously what money you've got in the bank. Owen Wilson says, also, do you see Big Sam going Burnley? Feels like it's possible. As covered, yeah, I think it is, yeah. That by the time I finish this stream, there might be some news. Really interesting. Really, really interesting. You'd think to sack him on a Friday, they'd have to have someone lined up. But I think, I don't know. My instinct is there's been an argument and they've said go. I think. That his press conference was scheduled to be in like 2 hours. I don't know. I mean, if they haven't got anything lined up and organised and they've sacked him, that is absurd. Olivia Roberts says, morning on Wildcard, which combination? Kane, Matip and Cher, or Tony, James and Rudiger, Region, have Son and Kulusevski as Spurs assets, if that helps. I just wouldn't, Olivia, want to be wasting a Liverpool asset on Joel Matip, to tell you the truth. I'd want to be looking at doing it somewhere else. I don't mind Tony as an option. The fixtures suddenly don't look so bad for them. I mean, the toughest they've got left is United away in 35, but Tottenham at home in 34. Do you want to forward with doublers though? That said, look, you can always move to 36 or so, if that's what you want to do. Region I'm not keen on at the moment. I think he is first choice. I think he does start for Tottenham tomorrow. I don't think Conte's keen to the extent that I think one bad performance and he'll change that and put Sessegnon back in the team, so I wouldn't be keen on Region. Rudiger fine, Reece James fine. I'd say Tony, James, Rudiger I think would be what I'd go to from that. But then, no Kane. Yeah, I'd go the second option, I think, Olivia. There's no guarantee Kane will be on my wild card. I just structurally might work much better for me when I do it to go something like Richarlison, Watkins, and someone else at that value. Maybe even something like Pookie. And not go with him. It is prohibitive to have Harry Kane's value as a forward. But he's also the only forward that any of us particularly want at the moment. Flying Pig says, is Almiron a good differential? No. I think, I mean, it stunned me that the comments I've seen from Eddie Howe this morning is, and I didn't take it as though Ryan Fraser will be fit, but it's kind of like, we'll see for the weekend, like not ruling him out. So, I mean, if that's the case, what you got? Maybe Leicester at home for Almiron? It's a hard no from me, mate. But if you go for it, I hope he does well, obviously. Maddie and 8 Cook says, bench boost this week with 3 Chelsea players. James, Rudiger and Mount, Ramsdale in goal. Thanks. I'd be scared of that. I do think if they all start, you'll get what you want from it. But I'd be bloody nervous watching that Chelsea Palace game on Sunday. Particularly, there's going to be caution over Reece James. Rudiger, you would expect to play. Mount, you would expect to play. And to be honest, I would think all 3 of them start against Arsenal, but I mean, you know what the risk is, right? Ramsdale, great goalkeeper coverage. I mean, that's definitely a bonus that you've got a keeper there with a double. So, is it ever going to look better? I'd say to you, Maddie, if you're running through, how does 36 look for you now? If you didn't make any transfers, how would your bench boost look in 36? And that's probably where you're going to find your answer. If you think it still looks better now, then pull the trigger. El Corona de Virus says, is Che Adams a good free hit option this week? Yes, I think he is. Yeah, decent. I actually would punt and catch her if I was on free hit. We haven't got the Lacazette news at the time, but if he's ruled out, I'd punt it. I'd really punt it. Great value, 5.4. I'd go for it, which is mad considering he hasn't started the league game all season. But we think Arsenal have been setting up to play and catch her up front if Lacazette's ruled out. I'd punt that. If not, if Lacazette was confirmed fit, I think front 3 I'd go for on a free hit would be Ronaldo. I'd go St. Maximin over Wood. I just think the ceiling's higher. And Che Adams. That's the 3 I'd go with. Sayers says, Dennis out for Wood, Alan St. Maximin for a hit only for this game week. Wildcard next game week. I think if Dennis returned and you went for it, you wouldn't regret it as much as if you don't do it and they do the business. So I'm going to say yes, go for it. Rob Pick says, hi mate, given the potential double-double for United, I would have to sell one of my Liverpool assets, Salah or Robertson, to get Bruno or Ronaldo. Which would you sell? Can wildcard 34 or 35 depend on FA Cup? Robertson, I think. But it's probably not as straightforward as that, is it? I don't know. If going Robertson to something like Share and now enables you to get Fernandes in alongside Salah, then I think that's the answer, isn't it, Rob? Stefan Stefanovic says, best replacement for Rafinha, Barnes, Martinelli, because Lacazette is injured. Martinelli is absolutely fine, by the way. I don't necessarily think him playing number 9 would necessarily make him a better asset anyway. Barnes, I'd be very cold on that at the moment, I think. James Ward-Prowse is another one to consider. Again, good fixtures for Southampton the next few afterwards. You can take it or leave it, move it on, whatever. I don't mind JWP. I think if it was me, I'd probably go Martinelli. I think. Danny McDonald says, what happens first? Burnley promoted back to the Premier League or relegation to League One? I think the fact they're loaded with debt and seemingly have clueless owners suggests League One. I'm afraid, Danny, I have to agree with that. I have to agree with that. Melinda said, sorry, second question. Has the United-Chelsea double news yesterday changed your thinking of how we should view their assets? Well, I guess it has to have, because I wouldn't have considered buying a Chelsea player before the news. But the fact that it's now certain that that's what's going to happen. And I was never certain that it would get brought into 34. I'd still, in all honesty, felt it was more likely that the fixture would move to the Tuesday in 37 because they'd cocked it up. Right? They should have put Burnley versus Villa in 33 when they put the Southampton fixture there. And they shouldn't have arranged the Leeds-Chelsea fixture. They absolutely cocked it up and forced themselves into this route. So I think now the knowing that Chelsea are favourites makes the likelihood of a Chelsea double probably, I guess, around about 70-75%, I guess. So it does change that, whereas I'd have gone into this thinking it's probably 30-40% or so. So, of course, yeah, it's definitely impacted the thinking. For United assets, it's not affected me at all. Personally, I'm not. I mean, I've got De Gea and I'm actually going to start Dubravka over De Gea this week. Again, I just think the ceiling's a little bit higher. I've got Fernandes. If I didn't, I'd be very tempted. Agreed. Still take some cojones to move from Mo or Sonny if that's what you're doing. It can blind you. United have 4 fixtures in the next 2. Liverpool away, Arsenal away, and Chelsea at home are 3 of them. But you've got to do it now because it's Norwich at home in the first game. I don't think you suddenly go, oh, I'll do it next week. I don't think you do. I think if you want to go United, you've got to do it now. And it's more likely than unlikely at the moment, just by probability of Chelsea beating Crystal Palace, that United will have the double-double. I think I'm going to rule out Alex Telles for me, because then obviously I would start De Gea over Dubravka's single in 34 if it happens. I think that's okay. I've got 2. I'll have Rudiger. I'll probably be looking at -4 for 2 Chelsea if I don't buy a Chelsea now, and then I'll have 5. I think that's going to be better than most. Martin Boyle says favourite Easter egg, the biggest one. Hollis Stamos says, hey James, I'm on bench boost. Do I sell Connor Roberts for -4 for Telles, or just hope I get lucky and see Robert Stein? Well, God, I'd not even thought about that. The fact that the change manager, does the other one prefer Roberts? I've no idea. My guess would be Lowton keeps his place, but that could go back the other way, couldn't it? If you'd asked me yesterday, I'd have said take the -4 for Telles. But I don't think there's a way of knowing now, is there? T-Tax says prime Kaka or prime Zidane. Prime Zidane, and that's not even close, in my opinion. Chris Jargo says, hi James, what are your feelings on Werner? Every time I watch him, I think he's unlucky rather than poor. I thought he was absolutely brilliant on Tuesday night. I didn't watch all of the game at Southampton, but certainly looked dangerous. I think there are times where we've watched him, Chris, and he's looked very poor, in fairness. But yeah, he was absolutely brilliant on Tuesday night. So good. Really brilliant. So effective. And there probably is something to be said for being more effective for him. I've always felt like he's played quite well against Liverpool, for example, when I've seen him play against them. There probably is something to be said of him playing against teams that will allow him the space in behind, I think. That's probably why he's returned so well against Southampton in the past. James Hurd says, thinking of flying over from Oz to Seville, obviously big commitment with the kids for the Europa final if West Ham get through. How massive do you think the result is for the club long term? For the club long term? I think it's really difficult to say, mate. I think for you, as a West Ham fan, it will feel massive for a very long time. But if you lose to Frankfurt, it just becomes a great memory, doesn't it? For the long term, I don't think it overly does anything particular. Alexander Trajovski says Son and Cher in for -4 or Cancelo and Mateta for free. That's Son and Cher for -4 sounds like the answer there, I should imagine, I think. Yeah, it's got to be, I think. Apologies if you can hear my son crying. It's just walked back in the door. Hence, if you wonder why this stream was earlier today, that's the reason why. A bit of daddy duty for Easter. But I'll give you another 10 minutes or so, guys. Will Wood says, bench of Foster, Laporte, Robertson, Weghorst worth a bench boost this week. I would want to bin Foster for a keeper with a double. And if you weren't going to, I'd say no. Close, though. I mean, what do we expect? Laporte start, probably yes, and 6-pointer. Robertson start, 6-pointer. Weghorst, 3-pointer. It's always a 3-pointer. What's that, 15? 2 for Foster, 17. Yeah, do it. Yeah, I'd project that at about 17, but you'll need them clean sheets, I think. So, yeah, probably yes. Adam says KWP or target on free hit. I think based on what we've seen Southampton defensively over the last 5 weeks or so, I think target. What I would say is also the doubt about him playing twice. Does Pereira play one of them? Matt Samuelson on COTC yesterday, KWP was basically the only Southampton player who played well against Chelsea. So Deadly Mantis says, I've gone Rafinha to Maddison this week. Congratulations. Matt Wong says, Mount or Havertz, Alonso or James. Definitely James over Alonso. To be honest, Alonso did pretty well in Madrid the other night as well. But no idea if that sticks or not. Mount or Havertz. He's close. It's really close. Ideally, I'd like to see if it was manoeuvrable to get both next week, and I know it's not going to be. So this is a decision I'll face myself next week. I think because of the close proximity of the games, although they're not really, are they? Chelsea would play Arsenal Wednesday, West Ham Sunday, United Thursday, then Everton Sunday. I think because the opposition possibly a slight preference for Havertz, I really think you could toss a coin on them actually. That's really difficult. Definitely James over Alonso for me, which financially might force you into Mount. Matt also says, good to get tellers and targeting just for game week 33 since I'll be dead ending before my almost very certain wildcard on 34. Yeah, that's fine, mate. Nicky Kassam says, landed on a possible bench boost. Would you do it for a bench of Ramsdale, Cher, Dewsbury Hall, Weghorst? Yes. Yeah, definitely. Your 4 doublers there, mate. All I'd say is that they definitely your worst. So, I mean, I would probably pick Cher over even a couple of the premium single defenders this week. The others I wouldn't. But is that definitely your worst team? That's all I'd say. But on the face of it, Nicky, I can't argue that. Saying would be a -4 if no hit. Then Dennis is there. And Veggie in the first 11. Hope that makes sense. I think even Dennis instead on the bench, that's probably still worth it. I think with 3 doublers. Alistair Coper says, hey mate, would you rather go Salah, Ronaldo, Kane, Bruno, or Bruno, Ronaldo -4 for the next few weeks? This is assuming the double in 34, thanks. I've got Kane, Bruno, so I'm going to say that, mate. Birth Media says, Gallagher to Maddison, thoughts on what are the chances Chalobah plays against Arsenal? Well, again, what if Palace beat Villa? Do you want Gallagher then back in for his double of 35 before Leicester double again? Palace got Leeds at home in 34. Not massive on that. Obviously, if you I was going to say they've got Newcastle away, and he definitely plays. Because obviously he's ineligible on Sunday, so you don't have that worry with him. What are the chances Chalobah plays against Arsenal? Alan's a piece of string, mate. 50-50? No idea, mate. Not massive on that Gallagher to Maddison move. Like great fixture for Palace in 34. Could be great double 35. Even good single Watford at home 36. Not convinced about that. David Tyner says, what's up, James? Thoughts on Werner? Any other forwards you have your eye on for 34 onwards? It's really going to depend when I end up wildcarding and what happens with the Palace results. So my idea free hit 37 is probably something like Richarlison, Iheanacho, Kane. But it might be that it becomes something like Richarlison, Iheanacho, Pukki, for example, because of budget. And obviously moving the Kane money somewhere else possibly. Watkins is probably a no for me, bearing in mind I'm likely to free hit 37, or obviously if Palace win, possibly now 35, which is then Watkins' best double there. So, but it depends on your strategy. I think Watkins is a great pick for those who don't have a free hit left on the wild card. I mean, you're almost certain to go with him, probably Coutinho. You'd go with these guys, I think. William Frick Person says, hello James, surely James starts versus Arsenal. Not that they need him considering how bad we are. I don't know, mate. I don't pick the team. And there's no surely, is there? They've got a game beforehand where he might get injured. And let's be honest, he is a little bit injury prone, isn't he? So, yeah, I would think so, mate. But I don't pick the team. Mason Robinson says, Son or De Bruyne? Definitely Sonny for me, mate. Not a doubt about it. Form's too good at the moment. At the time of recording, I don't know the injury update on KDB either, and he's got a big game on Saturday, which if he can be fit for, he'll play. Shakalaka says, which Premier League team would suit Dyche? Everton. All day long, Everton. Be a good appointment for Everton. That's not to say that they should sack Frank Lampard right now. I wonder if they'd consider it. Imagine the irony in that if Everton went, nah, so Everton get beat 5-0 by Leicester and they go, solid, nah, we'll have Dyche for the rest of the season. Imagine the irony. I do think that would be the most suitable club. Mahir says, 2 best 1-week punts for Doherty and Tierney. Newcastle defenders. Share and ban. Literally straightforward as that, mate. FPL Invincible says, James, I have no chips left and 1 free transfer this week. I will do -4 hit. The first transfer is Doherty to Share. For the second, I have 2 options, Rafinha to Sancho or Tierney to Cancelo. I mean, my instinct on that is, and you said you've got no chips left. I'll just get Cancelo, mate, to be honest. Stefanovic says, best replacement for Rafinha. I feel like we've done that one. John Cahill says, morning, James. Aside from Maddison, what sub 7 million double game week midfielders do you like? I'm tempted by Martinelli. Yeah, he's absolutely fine. Ward-Prowse I've spoken about. Dewsbury Hall, if you want to come right down, absolutely fine. I think Martinelli would probably be the one for me, I think, knowing that I had the wild card left. If not, I really don't mind Ward-Prowse, actually. I know Matt was quite high on him as COTC as well as the standout Southampton option. You're just going to one... Are you just going to 1 week? No, you're not. Lexus Steeleman's got the next question. Is wildcard in 34 or 35 question. Team looks okay for both, but I was planning on using the bench boost in 34. So probably have to get it out of the way. I mean, that's not going to work for me. Can't see me bench boosting Breuer away to Brighton and Weghorst at home to Wolves somehow. And Jacob Ramsey away to Leicester. That won't work for me. If it works for you, you want to get it out of the way, fine. But if you want to get it out of the way in 34, you're wildcard in 35, aren't you? I really think those who are looking to wildcard 34, 35, the Palace-Chelsea result is obviously going to have a bearing and impact. So I said, if Palace win, I could be wildcarding Sunday night. If Chelsea win, I'm waiting for 35, almost definitely. Rhino's Leeds says, what you think about Marsh saying the players were overtrained? He's right, but not sure it was wise to have a dig at Bielsa in public. Agreed, but his confidence is up a little bit, mate, having obviously had a couple of wins for you. I mean, the win at Watford was impressive. Probably feels like he's got a little bit more support in the fan base that feels he can say it. And I think you're right, and I think he's right. I agree. It probably just wasn't best to say it publicly, probably, I think. Knowing that, although he didn't name Bielsa, I mean, it's obvious. And I think we all knew that they were overtrained. And that eventually it would probably hit a wall, which is why I think so often in the past Bielsa didn't have long stints, and he had so many managerial spells at various different clubs because of that. I think because eventually you hit that wall, and it took Leeds a lot longer to hit that wall, possibly because of the makeup of the squad, the way English football is played. It's possibly why it lasted longer. But yeah, he probably should have just kept it to himself, I think. It would have even been better if he said, we've altered the training regime, we're giving the players a little bit more time. Even if he'd have kind of labelled it that way, the way it came across was, yeah, they've been overtrained and that's why they've been suffering. James Zammit says, have only 1 free hit left. When is best to free hit, 33 or 37? There isn't an answer to that, James, because it's very dependent on your team and who's in it. There isn't a right or wrong. What I can say is, if Palace beat Chelsea, it's probably now. If Chelsea beat Palace, it's probably 37, I think. Nick says, would you bench Kulusevski or Amati? Amati, mate. Definitely. I can't see him starting twice. Can't see that. So he's 1 game better than Kulusevski. It's not, is it? Yazid says, Salah to Bruno. Question. I've kind of covered this. How do you feel about it? We'll just end with this one. Burn TV says, hi James, just curious, I've got a huge dilemma. I've still got Bowen with a decent fixture against Burnley. However, I don't want to miss the boat on Maddison. Bowen to Maddison this week makes sense. Question. No, I'd leave it. I said stay with Jared Bowen. Great differential for this week. Burnley might have a really bad reaction. Remember when Sheffield United sacked Chris Wilder and they went and got spanked 5-0 at Leicester? I mean, you could get that sort of reaction. I don't think you will, but you could. So no, I wouldn't move that. Alright guys, I'll have to leave that there because I can hear the little one going off in the background. Before I let you go, deadline stream obviously 10 AM tomorrow morning. There won't be a Q&A bit afterwards because I'm going straight to Tottenham obviously for the 12:30 kickoff. But join me at 10 on YouTube tomorrow. The team news stream for the advanced tier patrons is scheduled for 7 PM tonight, but we'll confirm that as the day goes on for you. Next week's content, 2 main podcasts from me and Serge. It'll be Monday and Friday. So we'll obviously review the weekend games Monday, the midweek games on Friday. Tuesday's likely to be a people's poll to be confirmed. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy Football. And Thursday's clash of the correspondents is an either or. Should Chelsea beat Crystal Palace on Thursday, it will be Chelsea against West. No, sorry. If Palace win, it will be Chelsea against. No. Which way round am I doing it, James? if Palace win, it will be Chelsea against West Ham with rotation FPL and FPL Sky Addict. If Chelsea win, it will be Manchester United versus Chelsea with my cat playing and rotation FPL. God, I cut that up. If you're wondering, oh my God, it's not going to be West Ham. I promised Chris that he'll be on for Gameweek 35 against Arsenal if it's not this week. So an either or clash of correspondence. We've got both set up either way round, and we will record it Thursday morning so it's fresh after Chelsea's game against Arsenal on the Wednesday. Other than that, I wish you all a very good weekend. Hope your arrows are green. Remember to be nice to each other. Good luck. Play it your way. And for the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.